Chazown Church, and all of our visionaries, those near and those far. Wow, the last few days have been absolutely surreal and nothing short of a miracle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check this out.
So, Pastor Will and Chazown Church, I want to let you know, on behalf of God and all the people here at Transformation Church, there's a check for $100,000 coming. Oh, there's a check for $100,000 coming to you and your church so that you can continue to listen and obey. Somebody give God praise right there. Glory to God.
Yo, God just did that. And I want to say again, thank you, Pastors Michael and Natalie Todd. Thank you, Transformation Church and Transformation Nation. This was an answer to prayer. This is also the first time that God has blessed our church in a public manner. I want to take a moment to just celebrate and honor those of you that are watching now that you have given to our church over these last few years. You have blessed us in private ways, and we're so honored by that. We're also so thankful that God has done it in a public way. Many times God will confirm his word through public signs, wonders, and miracles, and this is one of those times. Wow. It's surreal. And I also want to shout out those of you who have sent us text messages on social media, phone calls, all of those different things to celebrate with us. We're honored and humbled by that. I'm making this video to answer some questions that many of you have had online or through conversations. What happened on Sunday is a miracle from God. Here's what I need you to know. The reaction that you saw from me and my daughter was real. Okay, that was no contest. We did not call their staff, or I didn't talk to anybody on staff. This was literally us listening and obeying, and them listening and obeying and blessing our church. What happened on Sunday was just a normal Sunday for me and my family. We had church, we had our Christmas service, and every Sunday right after service ends and everybody leaves, I edit my sermon because we film it as I'm filming this on my cell phone. And typically as I'm editing in the background, I'll have Transformation Church playing. And my daughter, who usually stays with me, said, "Hey, Daddy, you going to turn on Transformation today?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll turn it on." And it just happened to be 10 minutes before Pastor Mike, what you saw, right? I wasn't really even looking at the screen or even listening. I was doing other work, and she heard him say my name. So the only reason that you even see me filming is because I was just going to send that to Davina, my wife, and some of my friends that Mike used me and our family as an example in his message. I had no clue that they were going to give to our church. And so the tears were real. And I still been crying. I don't even know how I still have tears in my tear ducts. I've cried so much over these last few days. And we are humbled. We are honored that God would bless our church through Transformation Church. We're so thankful for that. All of this was a full circle moment for us. As he said in the message, for many years in the early 2000s, my wife and I, we attended and we served at Greenwood Christian Center. Bishop Gary McIntosh actually officiated our wedding back in 2006. And so we served at that church for many years, and then God called us elsewhere. And so in May of 2019, we went back to visit for the first time in nearly 10 years. And I remember going in, and me and Davina and I, we were moved to tears the day that we went to visit, because everything that God had told Bishop Gary McIntosh in the late 90s and early 2000s, we saw it, that God was going to use that church to reverse the curse of the Tulsa Race Massacre. And we saw it in 2019 when we visited. We saw every ethnicity in that room, hands lifted up, praising God, and we started weeping. And what we didn't know was that a friend of mine had told Pastor Mike that we were going to be there. Pastor Mike invited our family to the back and spent a few minutes with us, just encouraging us and thanking us for serving there. But what he doesn't know, and I'm sharing maybe for the first time publicly, it was that service, May 26, 2019, that God spoke to me for my family to move to St. Louis to continue the work that my parents had started at this church. Matter of fact, I was in that service and I know exactly where I was sitting, and I heard God say, it's time for you to go back home, to the point that I thought somebody said it behind me. So I turned around thinking it was somebody that we knew. I didn't know those folks. And he said it again later on in that service. Pastor Mike was preaching about a side chick savior. It was their baptism Sunday. I'll never forget the day. But it was that day that God said, it's time to move back home and bring his vision, not Will's, but his vision to this community here in St. Louis, Missouri. And for months, I didn't even tell my wife about it. And I finally told her after a lot of prayer and talking to some wise counsel. We talked about it. We prayed about it. And many months later, I went and talked to the leadership at Life Church, which is where we were serving on staff. And in January of 2020, they sent us off so well. They agreed with what God had spoken to us and sent us off well. And what happened then was, it was difficult. And the reason it was difficult was for a few reasons. Number one, we love Life Church. Still love Life Church. Pastor Craig Rochelle is still my pastor. That's who I see as my pastor. And so God had done so much in and through our family while we were there at Life Church. And we wound up being able to build our first home. We had great community. Just life was great. And we thought, hey, this is what God's called us to do. And if anything, we thought we were going to be, at some point, be moving to Texas to get closer to my wife's family. We had never talked about moving to St. Louis, Missouri. I was leaving a church, the largest church in North America. I had the honor of leading a church that had a location that had over 1,600 people attending, to come pastor a church that had 10 people at the time. And we were moving into coming back to a building that was about 80 years old, and those that had served here for years before, they did the best they could to upkeep this building. And I'm so thankful for them. But it was difficult. It was difficult because we were giving up everything to follow after God. And I don't say that as a humble brag at all. I say that because what we were doing, I don't think is unique. I don't think that we're some special people. We've had so many people say like, oh, you guys are the most deserving people, or wow, you guys did, look at what you all did. But honestly, you all, what we did is what we believe Jesus asked every believer to do. And that's to take up our cross and follow him. Or as Pastor Mike said on Sunday, we listened and we obeyed. That's what happened. That's what we did. We didn't do it for accolades. We did it because we believed, we heard God, and we believed and trusted him, and we obeyed, and we came here. We left the house that we owned, and I moved my wife and 3 daughters into my mama's basement at nearly 40 years old because we believed God said to come here and bring his vision to this community. What I'm doing is I'm actually standing on the shoulders of my parents who started this ministry in 1993. They planted this church. And it's because of their labor. It's because of their prayers. It's because of their diligence and their work and them listening and obeying God. And also the early laborers who stood by my parents' side as they pastored this church together until my father passed away in 2014. And those that stood by my mom from then until when I became the pastor in 2021. It's because of them, because of their prayers, because of their sacrifice that we get to stand on their shoulders and keep the ministry going. Why am I sharing all of this? It's because I truly believe that the life of a follower of Jesus and the life of those in ministry, that it's a marathon. And what my parents did was they started this marathon relay back in 1993. And they ran their leg of the race. As Paul talks about, we run to win. And my parents ran. And in 2021, they passed the baton to me. And I'm running my leg of this marathon. And if you've ever seen a marathon, there are different points within a marathon a race that different people have cups of water for the runners. And what I truly believe that happened here this past Sunday was Transformation Church had a cup of cold water for us at Chazown Church. Well, if I'm honest, it wasn't just a little cup of cold water. It was probably a gallon of Powerade Zero with some good electrolytes for us to keep running the race that God has called us to run. And we're going to continue to run this race. So what does our leg of this marathon relay look like? Well, a lot of it we're figuring it out. Okay, what I can tell you is we're going to continue to listen and obey. We are a growing and thriving church, and we're still trying to put all of these pieces together so that we can keep running this race that God has called us to run. Just a couple examples. Like one, I still film our messages on my cell phone. You know what? What we have is what God has given us, and we're going to continue to listen and obey with that cell phone. Right? We don't have a worship pastor, but you know what? I'm going to keep editing these YouTube videos so we can keep giving praises and worship to God. Like we're figuring all of this out. But what I do know is this: as we listen and obey, we're going to continue to fulfill the mission that we believe God has given us here at Chazown Church, and that's to present God's vision to people so they believe, they love, and they live Jesus. That's our mission. That's our vision, and that's what we're running towards. We're running after God because there are so many people here in this community that are still far from God, that need hope, that need life, that need God's vision. So we're going to continue to do just that. So this was our Christmas miracle. But we know this, that the greatest miracle that we're going to celebrate here in just a few days is the gift of Jesus being given to us. And because he's been given to us, we want to continue to see people believe, love, and live him. I want to thank, one more time, Pastors Michael and Natalie Todd, all of Transformation Church. And most importantly, I want to thank God because of his faithfulness. You're so good, God. Maybe you're watching this and you're in the St. Louis area. I want to invite you to be a visionary with us. We're at 6923 West Florissant. We'd love for you to join us in the new year. And maybe you're far from St. Louis. You can keep following us online. Just look up Chazown Church. We're the only one. So we're pretty easy to find. But I want to thank you for watching this video. We're praying with you. We're praying for you. And we want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless.